Oi mate, this is Jason Statham. Just kidding, it's Dragan from the Break It Down show. For today's guest, we can say the following. The passion and commitment are the hallmarks of the career of filmmaker, acting coach, and performer Michelle Danner. For decades, one of the industry's most respected and successful teachers, and now a successful director who continues to grow and expand her creative universe, hoping to set an example for her students and peers. The important thing is to keep growing as an artist, to keep raising the bar for yourself, explains Dan. In order to be passionate, you have to keep expanding. You have to keep growing. You have to keep pushing yourself. I would kindly ask you to support the Break It Down show. All the money you invest goes right back into the show. Also, don't forget to support Save the Brave as we battle PTSD on savethebrave.org. So, as the Brits would say, toodaloo, enjoy the episode.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick
This
Marotta.
is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Michelle Danner, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
And now, the Break It Down show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Michelle is an acting coach, among many other things, and an absolute creative monster. Whether it's live shows or making, so many things. You are a machine, Michelle, and I really appreciate you coming on to talk about what you do. And just for the audience's sake here, anybody who's been successful in the movies, we just had Ryan on the show. Ryan became a director because he went to, he's like went to Craigslist and said, I will work for free on your movie. Just get me on the set and let me help. And he just slowly built until now he directed that special with Oprah and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. So the path for everybody has people like Michelle who guide us along the way to get us to where we need to be. So, how would you characterize, what is it that you do, Michelle? I mean, there are so many things apart from the acting coaches. What would you say? Like when people say, what do you do? What do you say back to them at a party?
I tell stories. I'm a storyteller in different ways. I'm rehearsing right now a play with Ann Archer called A Ticket to the Circus, which I loved. Beautiful, very well written, one-woman show. I make movies. I have a movie right now called The Runner on the festival circuit that's winning awards, which we're all very ecstatic about. And I have a movie that's out called Bad Impulse that just came out a couple of months ago. It's a psychological thriller that people are loving. So I love to tell stories, depending if there's on stage or in life or in the movies.
Let's talk a little bit about helping people tell stories, and then we're going to come back to your stage and movie productions. But let's talk about helping somebody learn how to do this, because there are so many tools, right? A director has lighting and set and location, but also the actors, and developing the capacity to give a director something that they can always use it's a lot harder than it seems. We always see the finished product, after all the mistakes have been hashed out.
Right.
See the final, not just the final production, but like with everything fixed, final production. So talk a little bit about that aspect and building somebody into, a tool a storyteller can use.
Well, it's a very collaborative process, and you rely on a lot of people, different people. But ultimately, I think the stories that move me are ultimately have to do with exactly that, the degree to which it does something to you. It penetrates you. I'm very, when I look at a movie, I'm always like, oh, great location. Oh, wonderful camera move. Oh, wonderful visual effects. Oh, that music really works really well, or doesn't. Or the acting is really good. But ultimately, and of course, this is so subjective, does it viscerally impact you? Does it affect you? Does it make you feel something? So I can only watch great visual special effects for this much time. The rest of it's got to be just a great story that has heart, and that really is about something. So, but there's a lot of things that go into movie making. Like you said, there's just so many layers. And that is the reason why, if we sit through the credits after we watch a movie, and, we should, there's a lot of people that, are part of that scroll. You're always amazed. You're like, oh my God, did it really take all those people?
It did.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, and behind those people are other people that have gotten them to that place, whether they gave them a break or they kicked them a couple of dollars to make that short that got them noticed or whatever it is. I mean, every one of those people has, I don't know, another 15 or 20 people attached to it that they wouldn't be there for that, those people getting them up and over the hump. I mean, again, Ryan Curtis earlier today, he said he came he went from we were both in the Army and we didn't know each other then, but just we're both veterans. And he's like, I'm going to go to Hollywood. I'm going to create. And this is adorable. He had $1,200 in his pocket. It's like, okay, you're going to make it 2 weeks and then you're going to need to start making money instantly, And so he did, he figured it out. He got over the hump. And so to get to that point, there had to be other people there. When you coach somebody to act, how important is it for you for them to exit and really get into some big roles so you can say, look at these people, and it's on your website, like you have all these incredible names of people you worked with, but not everybody gets there. How much of that do you own in terms of who walks through the door and then the rate of success?
Well, the job of a teacher is to pass down, to inspire, to give the artist tools. There's always been, lots of discussion. I believe, I studied with Uta Hagen, and her husband, Herbert Bergdorf, would talk about, will that actor make it or will that actor make it? Like nobody has that crystal ball on who's going to benefit the most, who will, and then people say it's luck, but, it's not all luck. It's a combination of being very prepared and in stepping up to the plate when that opportunity comes your way. And some of it, of course, has to do with, some luck. But I think it's a combination of things. And so who is, the actor that's going to benefit the most? Who is going to, I was coaching a few minutes ago with a wonderful actor that's getting opportunities right now. Is really talented. I have a good feeling that he's going to have an impactful career. But nobody knows. But I teach the same way, whether I work with an Oscar winner or I work with a student that is just starting out. I'm passionate about the craft of acting. I'm passionate about what great acting is, what wonderful storytelling is. And, I try and work very intuitively. I really come from this place where I do not believe that everybody is the same. There's not just one technique in acting that can be taught. It's very individual and it's very instinctive, and it depends who the person is, and where they're at in their life, and how they're ready to implement certain things. But I know that my teaching has benefited a lot of people, and even if people have not gone on and had these extraordinary careers, I get stopped often. Well, that was, of course, more before COVID than now, in restaurants, on the streets, different places. Oh, I took your class and, it's affected me in this way. It did this to me. It changed this for me. And I think the job of a teacher is to inspire, and in a way, the job of a filmmaker, of a director, is to also inspire people to give the best in them that they can give. And that's what I'm interested in doing. I'm interested in artists, in art, in having, great conversations and creating some wonderful content.
You're talking about the development of people and what it means. And I thought I might explore that a little more with you too, because, I've talked to so many actors and they all say you have to always work on your craft. If you're going to be taken seriously, like there's so many things you have to learn, so many things you have to practice. You don't just get to show up and just, talk. Like there's actual work that has to go into that. But some people just, and again, I'll use Ryan because we had him on, like some people just aren't actors. We know about actors because we see George Clooney on the screen and we go, that's what I want to be. But it turns out You probably won't become George Clooney, but you might become a working actor who works their entire career and hardly anybody knows your name, but you're a fantastically successful actor. You can make 6 figures a year and live a very comfortable life and have nobody know who you are, right? But you might also be someone who turns out, is great at production, or it turns out you really are someone who's great at scouting sites or whatever it is. And at some point, their acting dream meets reality, and someone like you has to say, maybe acting is your hobby, but it seems like you're going more this direction. How often do you have that conversation where you guide someone maybe away from acting or to expand their horizons to see what else resonates with them? Because not everybody's meant to do this.
Well, it's a great question. I just want to address something that you said. I think that after
Sure.
you have studied, decades on your craft, that's when you get to just show up and do it. I think when you own your craft deep in your DNA, then you can just go do it, show up. Of course, not everybody, people are attracted to the idea of acting because it looks glamorous. But, when you're sitting there and putting your makeup on at 5 o'clock in the morning and it's freezing and you have to do a really emotional scene, it's a little less glamorous. It's tough. It's courageous and tough to act. But yeah, a lot of people find out. And of course, throughout the years, my decades of teaching, I have met countless, people that have started out acting and then found out that they were really great at producing. And my dad was a well-known producer, and he said, it's an art to produce. You need artistry in order to do that. Or people go into, they write, they become more writers, or they go into, they're directors of photography at different aspects of the business. Or they go into, painting or sculpting or something else, or music or dancing. So there's so many places. But I think that I have 2 sons. And I have, given them acting classes for fun, for the hell of it, to become better people. And they've enjoyed them. And I have no desire for them to become actors. But if they want to become actors, of course, they'll do whatever they want. But I think everybody should do a little acting and then see if that's a stepping stone that can take you somewhere else artistically.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially nowadays, you don't have to give it all up, drive your car, have it break in Phoenix, take a bus to LA just to make it and get some acting classes. Like, you can literally go to your website, which is right there, michelledanner.com, and you can do classes remotely.
I've been doing Zoom this whole entire year, obviously, as have many others. And at first I rebelled. At first I hated it because, of course, you can't compare it to doing it in person. In person is better. But I have grown.
Right.
I mean, I love it. It cuts down time of traveling, even with meetings. I mean, I think some of it is here to stay. Auditioning via Zoom, meetings, classes. And also you tap into a pool that is worldwide, actors from all over the world. And so you have an actor from Saudi Arabia, from Canada, from, South Africa, and these people get to interact, talk to each other, and realize that everybody's in it together. The community of artists is worldwide. So I'm enjoying the Zoom experience.
How do you modify what you do, though? Because so much of it is emotive. So much it is about the affect. I mean, we use affect as a verb, but it is also a noun, and that's that response to stimuli. So how do you do that with someone? I mean, it's got to be tough, and it's a new way for you to teach. So how do you adapt to what you do to fit this new format?
When you work on set, you're either shooting a master shot of the scene, which is a wide shot, or you move into coverage where you do close-ups or medium or over the shoulders. And, I ask my students to place the camera in a certain way where I can see what their bodies do if we're doing a master shot, or if it's more intimate and it's going more into a close-up. Yeah, I mean, listen, it doesn't, compare, replace. When you're face-to-face in the same room, you're catching a whole other energy. But as an alternative, I think it's a great and fine alternative. I get a really great sense of who people are and what they're doing in that moment, what their acting choice is, and if it's visceral, if it's, if it goes deep enough. I get a sense. I've become very good at, catching the vibe over Zoom.
What is the percentage? Like, how much do you lose through Zoom? Like, if 100% is best, you, your hands, the lighting, them right in front of you, like where you can touch and position and gesture with them in real time. What's the percentage loss over Zoom? And then what advantages does Zoom have apart from, like, being in Saudi Arabia and getting a lesson? What advantages come through Zoom that maybe we're not aware of?
Yeah, so I think 0%. You lose 0%. It's just a different experience.
Okay.
It's there's nothing like, oh, it's not as good. No, it's great. And my students have been ecstatic being creative over Zoom. It's a great way to stay in the game. It's a great way to use your instrument and be creative. So no, I mean, I think, and I found a way to fine tune my Zoom classes so that they're exciting and inspiring. And that's what I hear from students. That's the feedback that I get. And they want to do more and they want to work harder. So, and I think, a lot of this is here to stay. These meetings, these auditions. People are doing first readings on Zoom. Everybody's involved. You read a script. There's just so much that you can accomplish. I think that this pandemic will have changed things forever for people. But this very well, the future will tell, obviously. And a lot of people are getting back to work in person. But we will tell. The future will tell how much of this is going to stick. I have a lot of my friends that are in the business that have moved to Topanga Canyon, to Joshua Tree, to different places far away, and they plan to come into LA once in a while, but they're going to do a lot of their work that way through Zoom. So as much as I rebelled at the beginning a year ago, is as excited as I am today to continue working on Zoom.
Yeah, that's good to hear it, because it's easy to dismiss, how we have to do this in a lot of ways, but it does seem like this is a definite change. Even before the pandemic, people were doing auditions via iPhone, and you and I both know, like, when you're trying to go somewhere in LA, yes, you want to be on time, you want to be early, but that's not always possible in Southern California because, look, you and I, how many times does an airplane land on the 405? That happens every other year, and you're like, an airplane landed on the 405. And so, yeah, I'm going to be 40 minutes late. I left 4 hours ago, by the way, it's just for everybody. You can go and live in Joshua Tree or Anza Borrego or wherever, and then you can do your audition. And then, yeah, if you have to go in, you go in. But it is incredible to be able to do this stuff via a camera or a laptop.
Totally. Yeah. Less traffic on the roads. Yeah. I think it's great.
Right.
I'm all for it. I'm all in.
Yeah, yes. Me too. Let's talk about Bad Impulse a little bit. This is that you made this pre-pandemic, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. The two last movies that I made, Bad Impulse and The Runner, were pre-pandemic. Yes.
Okay. And the timing of the release though, was that 2020 then? I think you made it in 2019, right?
Yeah, with Bad Impulse, we were going to be released theatrically all across the country. And we waited till the last moment. That's what we had in our contract with our distributors. And they tried until the last minute, but obviously it wasn't meant to be. Right. And the movie was released on December 18th. It's a fun movie. It's got Paul Sorvino in it, in an excellent performance, and some other wonderful actors, Sonia Walger, Grant Bowler, and a lot of others. It's a movie that I shot, when movies, it takes a couple of years for them to come out. That's why, to our surprise, we realized how much content there was after the lockdown. There was so much content. I kept waiting to see, when is it going to dry up? And it hasn't dried up. There's so many things. Because people shoot a lot. There's just a lot of stuff. And it takes a couple of years, especially if you're doing an independent film, to put the finishing touches and make it as great as you want to make it. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. It's written by a good friend of mine, Jason Chase Terrell. It's a psychological thriller, a little reminiscent of The Shining feel, with some horror and supernatural. And we did the festivals before the lockdown. We even had a premiere at the Chinese in Hollywood. And And what I got from, watching it with a live audience is that it really, people felt on the edge of their seats and people were scared by it. And horror has never been like my number one thing. But I thought to myself, if that's how audiences are walking away, then I did my job. If they're scared, that's good.
It's what I love about the horror genre is that people that love it, they just love it, and a couple of friends of mine are in the horror industry, and they told me, like, these movies make money because the audience is there, they come for it, they always want it. And they said, ultimately, we want 2 stars, 2.5 stars, not because we want to make bad movies, but where the bar needs to be is different than it is for a blockbuster movie or whatever. And by the way, Bad Impulse has 4 stars on Amazon, so it's a damn good movie. But that's the thing about horror, is that you're going to make money, but if you try to make it too pretty, if you spend too much money on production, this is what these guys were informing me. You risk disturbing that audience and pushing them away because they don't want that. There's a certain bit of camp they expect. There's a certain bit of unbelievability that they expect. It's part of what makes these movies work. Why is this genre like that, do you think? What makes horror is such an interesting and fan-driven genre? Because I mean, there are people that say, "Oh, I love a rom-com." There's those kind of people, but there's not a lot of other genres that have this big and self-identified rabid base. What is
I
that?
think the thrill of the ride is, of course, you suppose that it could happen to you. And so if it has an unrealistic setting, it's got to be like, the every person, the every man. It could happen to anybody. And that's the ride that you're getting on. So when we get in those rides in Disney World and Disneyland, the scary rides, it's you can relate to it. I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
It's got to have production values attached to it that you can relate to, so that you feel that it could happen to you, and you feel like you can get in the driver's seat and experience the story and everything that it does to you. Like I said, I was never particularly a fan, but I became, I studied it, and I studied the movies, the Blumhouse movies, and my son, who goes to USC, there's like a whole room for Blumhouse, in the hall, and I went to meet, I went down to Tate Taylor and Ma, one of the latest horror movies, and so I studied it. I'm fascinated with what makes a great horror movie, and why people do get scared, and how people identify with it. But I think you're right. It can't have all those, big production values.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't. And matter of fact, I think that they want some campiness to it. Like, they want the gore, and horror, thriller, slightly different genres. They're siblings, but there's something in there. If you're not crazy about the horror genre, why would you make a horror thriller? Like, what made you say, yeah, that's a good idea? Because obviously you can pick and choose the opportunities you want to take, but you take something that's not necessarily in your wheelhouse for your palate. So why do you make this leap to something that you have to grow to, to study and learn? And
that's a good question. In my personality, I'm very eclectic with my tastes. So I like a variety of different things. Like, you can talk me into anything. I'm not very opinionated in terms of genres. I'm not like, oh God, I don't want to see that. Well, I have 2 kids, and I'm watching with them constantly tons of things. And maybe there are things that on my own I would not watch. But I like a variety of different things. And once, when we were at the Cannes Film Festival years ago, we had the pleasure of meeting Ang Lee. And I was always inspired and fascinated by him, and how he was a master at directing different genres. This opportunity arose, and I'm not one to say no when there's a challenge that presents itself to me. The next movie, just so you know that I'm going to be directing, is a romantic comedy. I do love rom-coms, but I'm also attached to another psychological thriller. So I'm, be excited when that happens and I get to dig into that. But I do study everything. I do a lot of research. I study a lot, so I can, do good as much as I can.
Yeah. When you get behind a project, how much do you want? Like, do you have to have written it? Do you have certain go-to people that you like? Hey, I want to do something with you. How do you germinate these ideas? Because this is a town full of ideas, and most of them don't realize anything. So how do you process that whole decision of what am I going to put my money and my time and my effort into? I mean, it's a lot, and your time is valuable for sure. So how do you do that?
Yeah, well, I've directed 5 movies up to date. And the 5th movie, the one that I just finished, called The Runner, that's doing the festival circuit, and it's doing quite well. It premiered at CineQuest. It's going to play next week at the World Fest in Houston, one of the oldest film festivals. It's going to go on and play somewhere in New York, which I'll announce soon because we're finalizing that. And it's going to go to Italy. It's going to play in Ferrara, in Rome, and somewhere else. And where else? Oh, it's in London this week. It's at the London Independent Film Festival. So it's doing really, and it's won, I believe, 8 awards. So I'll tell you about that movie because that came about because I watched a news report at night about kids being pushed by police authorities to wire up so they could bring down the drug kingpin of the town. They could bust that drug person. And then shit happens. I don't know if I can say that on your show. And so I got really emotional, because one of the themes, because I have a couple of kids, and one of the themes that really resonates for me always is what happens when our kids fall through the cracks. That is something that always gets to me. And so I wrote a treatment and I called my friend who's the writer of Bad Impulse. And I said, would you write this screenplay? So to this day, this is my 5th movie is the most personal movie to me. It feels like it really came out of me, which it did. And then I worked on the screenplay, and Jason, again, just a wonderful writer, wrote a great screenplay. So I think moving forward, this romantic comedy has some personal stuff. You have to, as a director, how do you pick? You have to have a hook somewhere. Something has to speak to you. Something has to be personal for you because it's 2 years of your life. It's a lot of work. It's not just, the developing it. It's not only the it's not only shooting it, but it's all the post-production afterwards and the countless hours editing. So you better love it. You better love what you're doing, and you better really feel compelled to tell this story that you want to tell. But it has to have a personal hook. This last one, I did learn that the last movie that I did was more personal than anything.
Right. So when you take on a project like The Runner and you're a mom, you've got kids, obviously that informs what you're doing. How much of your kids are in this movie? I mean, not specifically necessarily, but you can't help, as a mom that you're seeing this movie. Moms are special. They worry about everything. They try to protect us. They try to set us up to succeed. So how much of that leaks into this story if it's really if it's personal for you?
Well, my kids go to school. That's, the most important thing for them. But they also come and on set. And I always believe that it's important that your children see you pursuing your dreams. It's a great lesson for them to go pursue their dreams. So I bring them in Bad Impulse. There's a little kid in the back of the car. That's one of my sons. And the other one plays one of the young characters in the movie, Michael. So if I can have him on set in front of me, then I know exactly what they're doing. And they come back in the trailer with me. But no, in this last movie, The Runner, it's interesting. I have an 18-year-old, he studies film. And he's passionate. He writes. He's very, very prolific. And so I know he already has done a couple of shorts that have won awards on the festival circuit. And he was tremendous in helping me with this last movie. He helped me find all the music. He found the inspiration for the score. He did the trailer of The Runner. So, it's now become a family affair, this thing. So it's great. And my youngest son, my 11-year-old, is basically knows every line of the whole movie. He knows every line of Bad Impulse. He knows every line of The Runner.
Wow.
He's just memorized the whole entire movie. So they're part of it. They're doing their own thing. They have their friends. They have their social life. They have their academics. But they're also very involved in this, movie making business.
Do you think this is their future when you look at them and how they work and what they're passionate about? Or is this just them being young and curious?
I think for sure it's my 18-year-old. It's his passion. There's no question about that. He was very clear from a long time ago. He's writing and directing. But I have sense, I don't know, time will tell, that he's going to make these big budget movies. He's got a great imagination. And my 11-year-old, I don't know. He's going to do something great, but we don't know yet. They can do whatever they want. We're a very, very close family, and we create together. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know if you have kids, but it's the greatest gift. It really is.
Yeah. I have a daughter, and she's graduated from college, and you always want them to, I don't know, do what it is they do, but you don't get to get it. They're the ones that get it and they figure it out, and you're like, okay, I hope you know what you're doing. I'm so excited for you to be on this adventure. I am crazy about my daughter Brenna, and it is always fun. And I wish she would have pushed the arts a little bit more, but she got onto, like, I have a track, I'm on it, I'm going to go out. I'm like, please take, like, you enjoy stage, you enjoy singing, take these classes and try to enrich yourself in this way. But she, she's independent, like I want her to be. And so she does what she does. And so, yeah, it is great. I love watching her do what she does.
Good. I'm sure you did a great job. That's the most important thing we can give our children, is to be independent and do their thing, I think.
Yeah. Her mom did a great job. I got to be I deployed a lot. So Jennifer did all the work. She gets all the credit. I got to have fun and be a fun dad, but she did a great job in getting our daughter from A to Z. I want to ask again about The Runner. Oh, first off, everybody, if you go to Amazon, you can type in Bad Impulse there and it'll come right up and everything. You can watch it there. But the Runner leads into a rom-com. Is this just because you don't want to stick on the thriller thing, or why this hard left turn? I mean, everybody loves a rom-com, but just help us understand, fill in the blanks. Why do you go this direction after the other one?
2 comedies I'm going to direct, I think, back to back. And, I think after the year we've had, we're being bummed out by these. I love these movies. I love No Man's Land. And I loved, what was that other one? The Sound of Metal. And I loved all these movies. But I do agree. There's been some critics, they say, what a bummer. Everything's depressing. And I do, I want to do stuff that's just fun, especially after the year we've had. I personally, me and my family, have had, a really, really good year. I've loved the reprieve. I've loved the pause. I've loved not having to be on the treadmill so much. I've loved taking my time to edit, just relaxed. But I mean, obviously it's taken its toll on so many people. And I think that we need some fun stuff. We need some fun content. We need just, uplifting things. And I'm not saying that I'm sure I'm going to direct the stuff that I'm always attracted to, which is those, real dramatic pieces. But I just think we need some comedy. And I have 2 wonderful comedic scripts, really great, wonderfully written. And I'm going to make them, come to life.
It would seem like, with all this production you got going on, movie after movie after movie and everything, that this is all you do, but it is not all you do. How do you find time to do all this stuff? Because, by the way, you're a mom too. So you got a kid in college, you got a kid in school, you're running a family through a pandemic. You've got 2 movies that are recently out, especially with the pandemic, keeping both of them kind of on the front burner. And now you have 2 projects that you want to work on. Whew. And then, Edgemar, how do you do all that?
I try to be very organized. I try to, that book, do you remember that book, The Road Less Traveled? I try to do the things that I want to do first thing in the morning. Just get those done, get those things out of the way. I just try to cut through the noise, and I don't, I'm a very meat and potatoes person. I just like to get it done. I do have the reputation of getting it done. I don't know why. I have the chip. I'm driven. I find a
Yeah.
way to get it done. Um, and also to relax and have fun. I mean, people always think, "Oh, I'm so busy," and yes, I am busy, and yes, I work is definitely, it's not the most important thing in my life. My kids are, for sure. But again, I think it's important that they do see me work, and it teaches them about work ethic, which is
Yeah.
crucial. But yeah, you're right. Every question you have asked me has been like really right on. You've totally zeroed into all the different aspects of it. I don't know, but I find time. One of the things that's been frustrating to me this last few months is I didn't bake bread the way that all my friends bake bread. I did not do the puzzles that I've been wanting to do. So that's coming out. And I didn't read enough. I wanted to read fiction. I just wanted to read for the pure hell of just reading without having to read a script that I'm going to direct or an acting thing work. And so I've been doing that. I joined this book of the month club with my niece, and I'm reading these great books with no agenda, but just to read for the joy of reading. So I'm doing that. I'm making the time. I think the truth is that, you have to make the time. It's about, there's 24 hours in the day, and obviously you got to sleep and you got to have fun and relax, but then you have to make the time to do the things that are important.
Right.
And that's what I try to do every day.
But what does a day in the life of Michelle look like? I mean, I know, like for me, I run my own business. I'm trying to make this podcast, grow all the time. And so I'm a marketing person. I'm a PR person. I'm the production person. I'm also the production assistant, the audio engineer, like, oh my God, right. And so I can easily work indefinitely 16, 18 hours a day. And then sometimes I have to back off and I go out to the desert, whatever it is that I'm going to go do. So I do my best to do that. But what is a day in the life for you? Because you are a mom, you do have these projects, you do have a day job, I mean, and an incredible day job at that, by the way. So how do you, saying you stay organized, but what is a day in the life? Like, what time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? How many days a week do you work 12, 15 hours? Because there's no way you're working 8-hour days and doing all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I stay up late, too late sometimes, because I watch a lot of stuff. I watch so much content, movies and shows. And so I watch nonstop, and I read a lot. So I organize myself at night, and I do a lot of watching and reading. I do wake up early and I take care of my kids, and they've been on Zoom, both of them, but my youngest one is going back to school on Monday in person, and my other one is going to start USC in person in August. It's been all through Zoom, so it's been great to have them at home because we've had family dinners and walks. We go walk as a family together, and I have dogs too, and my youngest son has lizards and fishes and a turtle, and there's just a lot of. We have a little zoo here. And I work out. I swim a lot with my kids. We swim. We have rituals at night. We swim at night. We swim in the morning. We swim. We walk. I do some workouts. I've got the mirror. I do the workouts. And then I work. I have a couple of assistants that come here at the home office. For instance, I just finished the coaching today. Now I'm about to go to the theater to rehearse with Ann Archer, this extraordinary actress. And then I come back and I make dinner, and I spend time with my kids. I spend a lot of time with my kids, so that is for sure. And I travel with them during this year. I mean, we went to Yosemite. We did some beautiful hikes and swimming in the river there, the lake, and we went to Laguna Beach. That's another favorite of ours. And we go to New York to see my family in New York a lot. We took very good precautions, and now we're all vaccinated, except for my youngest one. So we feel good, but we're all going to continue taking all the precautions because obviously you have to, and knock wood, with everything we've done this year, and we've done quite a lot. We did not get sick, and we're all healthy and we're all good. But, that's what a day looks like. If I'm in the car driving somewhere, I'll call my assistant and catch up on emails and phone calls while I'm in the car. I always work in the car. That's one way of getting it done. Yeah.
I totally get that. Like when I have to go somewhere, my friend's like, "Oh, you might have to wait a little while." And I'm like, please believe me, I have so much to do. I can sit down, I turn my phone into a hotspot, and I just start cranking emails nonstop, making images. Oh my God, editing, moving files. Big files.
Well, you see,
Yeah, all the time.
that's why you're asking me. You see, you do the same thing,
I do. I want to illustrate it because look, the thing I want to ask you next about is that mom that's in Poughkeepsie, New York, and she's like, God, I want to make a movie so bad, but it's impossible for her because she doesn't have any time. And here we are saying, hey, there's time. Yeah, you can have a full life. You can take a break. And like I said, I like to go to the desert or go to the mountains or go to the beach. Sometimes my girlfriend and I like today in the afternoon, we're just going to shut it down, go down to the beach and just sit and just enjoy, right? Like we build this time into what we do. I'm not saying we're the best at it, but this is what we attempt to do. But that person who's not in Hollywood, who's like, man, I really have this creative urge, whether it's writing or they want to direct something, or they just want to make a video just for the heck of it. When you're young, you're like, let's make and you fill in the blank, and then you would go try to go make it with whatever you had, sticks and mud or whatever. But what about that mom that's out there who made bread and who did the puzzles? And now she's like, but I really wish I would have created a video short. I know I have this camera. Where's my phone at? I know I have this thing. It's a movie studio right here. I know I can do it with this, but I'm just stuck. How do we get that person unstuck so that they go out, they grab their movie production studio and go out and do something?
Yeah, well, maybe they can get unstuck by taking some sort of a class, because I think when people are stuck is because they don't have the steps. So they have to figure out, what's step one, what's step two. There's got to be a very clear path, a vision board on how to make it happen. And I think that, I also have a film festival, a boutique film festival called Cinema the Edge at Edgemar, where we watch films. We have it's been very successful for 8 years. And so there's a lot of people that are making movies that are great. And there's a lot of people that make movies that are not so good. I mean, everybody should be allowed to make whatever movie, they make. It doesn't have to be good. But if you make a movie, I think you want to try and obviously put your best foot forward. So I would tell that person to study. There's so many things online that you can do, even free events. There's free Q&As, or you could take that master class or take a class where you can get clear, find clarity on what are the steps that you need to take in order to shoot a short movie. Or you're right, wherever my phone is, you can, buy some lenses here and you can shoot something great on this phone. You can light it. I mean, anything is possible. My motto in life has always been that anything is possible. But I think that when, I have something that I want to do right now in my life, it's like a big thing. And I'm trying to figure it out. I'm putting the pieces of the puzzle together. But in order to put the pieces of the puzzle together, I have to have conversations with people, and I have to do research, and I have to inform myself. So I think it's not realistically to say, just go do it. Yes, of course. After you've done all the research, just go do it. Do it. Yeah. But inform yourself, do research, figure out what the steps are. I think that's what I would say to, that person that wants to be artistic and has, her family or his family to deal with. And also the other thing that I would say again is that the thing that you can teach your kids is that they should see you take action. Yeah. They should see you doing it.
That's great. Yeah, that it really is. Let them learn through observing you. And then I would say this too. We used Poughkeepsie earlier as the example. If you're in Poughkeepsie or somewhere where you feel like there's no film community around you, this is 100% true. I promise this is true. There are more than just you who want to make some kind of projects. You don't have to, like Michelle was saying, research it, understand what it is, but also find the people in your community. Maybe there's someone that already has a script written. They're like, I've got a short script. And a short can be 11 minutes. It can be 7 minutes. It can be 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to make a 90-minute film. And it also doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to, you have to try to make it so that you can go back and do it again. But I guess the thing I'm trying to say most importantly is there's always a community out there of people that are like-minded who would love to create that. So set up a meeting on Zoom or in the library or wherever you can. Do it safely where you're at. and see who comes and shows up, and then build that community, because that's, I mean, a film, as we said earlier, right? What are there, 5,000 names in some of these movies? I mean, it's just, there's so many people. Find some of those people who are passionate about it. Like, I'd love to, I don't care what you have me do. I just want to make a movie, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's, a lot of people want to collaborate and be part of a family, of a creative family. And you just have to find who those people are. Absolutely.
My dogs are barking at other dogs in the backyard right now.
The
Let's talk
kids
about
are-
Edgemar for a few minutes. Give us an idea.
Yes.
You're a founder. This is incredible. And also, by the way, nice location. Anything in Santa Monica is in a nice location, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, we have two beautiful theaters that I built in the year 2000. And a lot of magic has happened in the last 18 years. We have done plays and musicals and art gallery showings and outreach programs for children and seniors. We have a great series called Defining Moments, where seniors tell, turning point stories of their lives. And we have classes as well. So we have an array of programming. It's it's a beautiful two theaters. It's in the heart of Santa Monica on Main Street. We've been shut down for the last year, obviously, because of COVID, and slowly things are reopening, and we are as well. And we're hoping, we have a whole, so again, it's been great to just take a step back and reflect in terms of what is it that we want to do, theater wise. I've always been attracted to pioneering new works. That's always been something that's been of interest to me. And so to that end, we've given a lot of birth to some original plays that found their way onto the screen, like this movie, Hello, Herman, written by John Buffalo Mailer, that I directed with Norman Reedus. So I'm just a great believer in, and also this show that I'm doing now, which is the mother of John Buffalo Mailer. That's how it came my way. A Ticket to the Circus, based on her novel, written by a wonderful writer called Bonnie Culver. And Anne fell in love with it, as I did. And now we're going to do it, before we do it live, we're going to do it virtual theater. So we're gonna do that in the next month or so. So and we've been working on it for a while. There's there's a lot of wonderful shows that await us. I can't wait to get back to watching theater in person. I am a great lover of theater. This year was the first time that we went to New York and we couldn't go see a Broadway show. It was definitely, it created a hole in us. So I can't wait for when we can go back to New York and to London, and things are reopening in London, which is great. And we can see live theater again. And that's what's going to happen at Edgemar as well.
I'm such a fan of live performance in general, but especially live theater. My preference is musicals, and there's just in LA, Orange County, San Diego, there's so many opportunities to go see things like this live. It was, so I finally got to go see Hamilton. And when you've seen a bunch of musicals, you can appreciate how great Hamilton is. But you're like, yeah, that's okay. Have you seen do? And there's so many incredible, like I love Come From Away. Have you seen that one at all? The one about the people who get stranded during 9/11, like in Newfoundland. Oh, it's so great.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that. Yes. I saw that, and I saw Hamilton, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you get to see a lot of these things, your life is truly enriched, because you are seeing, the best. It's like seeing a blockbuster movie. You're seeing a show that travels is absolutely the greatest. Like, this is the best. This will sell everywhere. And you guys should understand that these shows like this they're incredible. And then to be able to go somewhere like to Edgemar is, by the way, clever name. I like that, is great. So I can't wait to see that. How do we watch on Zoom when it first debuts there?
Well, you could email us at the theater. If you go on the edgemarcenter.org website, you can get on our mailing list. You can find out how to email us to get on our mailing list, and we'll let you know when we show the Ticket to the Circus with Anne. And we can get on our mailing list, so then you find out about all the events that are coming up.
And I'm putting that in the show notes right now. Edgemar Center. I'm going to type that in here in a second. And when do you expect to debut that, or can you say yet?
I believe in June. Look out for June. That's the month.
Yeah, that's great. And Ann Archer, by the way, great get with her. She's fantastic. How do you know her personally and like regular life, or is
I
that
did.
okay?
I worked with her in another project, her and her husband. I co-directed her in a show called Jane Fonda in the Court of Public Opinion, about that whole thing, that happened. And so we had a run at Edgemar, and she's a wonderful lady. She's a great actress. And our rehearsals are joyous. That's why I'm looking forward to rehearsal today. It's always so much fun, and it's so creative. And it's great. And we're doing them in person because, we're both vaccinated. We did a lot on Zoom. We explored a lot of the script on Zoom. But now today we're in person. That's what's great about, this light in the tunnel, is that we're able to get together in person and rehearse.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then again, back to the creating thing, practicing, working on the creating thing, just the process of the work of creating is so much fun. To think about what a project can be and to make it turn into reality is also part of the journey. That's wonderful.
Yes, that's right. It's about, starting something and following it through, seeing it at the end. And that's a very fulfilling experience.
I've had you for just about an hour. What should I have asked you that I've not asked you?
I think you asked me some really great questions. You've asked me some really great questions.
Yeah.
I think you get a good sense of my work. I think you get a sense of my love for theater, my love for movies, my love for storytelling, and first and foremost, my love for my kids. I think that I feel very grateful for everything. And when I was in my 20s, I had a lot of sadness in me. It's because I had a lot of sadness as a child. But, little did I know that sadness was combustible in order to be able to create. So I actually am grateful now for my sadness and for all the little moments that life gives us. I'm grateful for my classes, for my students, because as I teach them, they teach me. I'm constantly learning every day. Every day is a great learning lesson.
I love it. Well, listen, this is Michelle Danner. You can always go to michelledanner.com and you can get information about her. You can also go to edgemarcenter.org and pull both those up. If you're listening on the podcast side, that'll be in the show notes. Don't you worry. And then if you guys want to support those guys, there's all kinds of links and information on both websites where you can get involved or just come and participate. Get out, go see some live theater. Go on to Amazon, watch some of these movies. Go watch Bad Impulse. Go watch The Runner. Support Michelle's incredible work. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking with you. And when we have the next project, let's have you come back.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.